Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Spicy one today. Again, we had a monster day yesterday. Breaking the offensive coordinator hire is going to be Brian Hartline, along with Billy Fessler at quarterbacks. We're going to get into the defensive coordinator hiring tonight. What is going on? There is a lot of drama behind the scenes at the Wood Hayes. We're going to get into all that. As always, we're going to take your questions as well. If you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, monster week for us, way ahead of the curve, way ahead of everybody else. So we appreciate you guys supporting us. We appreciate all the great love and all of the views on YouTube. Appreciate you guys spreading the good word. If you guys want to continue to support our Pay It Forward program, please send us some super chats. Super chats have been amazing. We've added a ton of new members from the armed forces, also from our military, also from our police folks, our folks with the fire departments, first responders. Again, if you guys have interest in that, Buckeye Scoop at gmail.com. You can send us your credentials and we'll get you guys signed up immediately. But we've had a really, really good run with that. So I really appreciate you guys as always. But I'm going to get right into it with Nevada. We had a amazing day yesterday. We went super early because you had some super good intel. And you're like, you want to go right now at 11:15? I was like, sure, why not? Let's do it. And Brian Hartline to OC, Billy Fessler to quarterbacks coach. Your thoughts? Because again, this is a monster story, and I think that it's the only correct way for Ryan Day to proceed is to make Brian Hartline the full-time OC, give him the controls of the offense, and see if he can sink us from. Because again, he's 38 years old. He's not 25. He's not a prodigy anymore. He's getting older now. We're going to see if he can do it or not. And I think that's a good reward for him and a great way to invigorate Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Innes, and Carnell Tate. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a hire that Ryan Day had to make. I think it was a decision whose time had come. Brian's been here 9 years. We've talked about it yesterday. He's 38 years old. He's not a young kid anymore. And if not now, when? And Chip Kelly had some really glowing things to say about Brian Hartline, about his intellect, about his game planning ability, about his ability to process. And I think that was all kind of foreshadowing Ryan Day's move here. Now, Ryan doesn't want to appear to be rash in terms of making this thing. They're going to make it look like it was a process, and that they've gone through a bunch of different people and looked at a bunch of different things, because he doesn't want to just look like he just settled on an internal hire, took the easy way out. And I don't think that's how he wants to present Brian to the fan base. And I think that the configuration on the offensive side kind of lends itself well to going with an internal hire like Brian. And I'm excited about it. I mean, I'm super, super excited about it. Now, I think on the defensive side, I think it's exactly the opposite. I think you've got a void that's been left by an old head like Jim Knowles, and now you've got a lot, some guys, younger guys, and some older guys that may think that they're, if you hire Matty G, does that upset Tim Walton? If you hire Tim Walton, does that drive Matty G off? Now the solution may be to bring somebody in from the outside, and that's why we've talked about Randy Bates being such an attractive candidate, being from Pitt, being a current defensive coordinator, playing a high pressure style very similar to Jim Knowles, and how that could kind of come in and be a nice compromise. And the other one was Joe Cullen, and Joe Cullen may be the reason why Ryan Day hasn't made this decision yet, hasn't announced it yet. Joe Cullen, currently defensive line coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, and a guy that's obviously a little, he's got some stuff going on right now in terms of the Super Bowl on Sunday, so he probably hasn't gotten around to interviewing or doing the types of things that you want to do in terms of doing a job. He's got a pretty big game coming up on Sunday, so he probably wants to give until then to kind of sort things out and see if that's an option. But as I sit here right now, obviously you've got the internal hire with Hartline, Billy Fessler, who they think is a rising star, going to quarterbacks coach. Leaves a big opening in the offensive line. We've talked about Kevin Wilson potentially coming back in an offensive line, co-offensive coordinator position, which would be the dream on that side. And on the defensive side, I'm leaning towards Randy Bates, but I think Joe Cullen's really gonna. I think Joe Cullen may be the reason why that Ryan Day hasn't announced things on the defensive side because of his Super Bowl commitments, wanting to kind of get through that, wanted to get through an interview process with him when the time's right, and the time's not going to be right for another few more days. So I expect the offensive coordinator thing to be announced before the defensive coordinator. But as I always say, timing these things is dicey. And I think Ohio State's going to have a completely new staff configuration. But as long as you got Ryan Day at the top, you got Coach Mick running the strength and conditioning program, and you got the other support pieces in place. I have no worries and excited about the future.
Well, I think the problem is like, Randy Bates makes a lot of sense at Pitt. If there was a way where he could have quit his season after 7 games, they were 7-0. They had the Syracuse game famously in Heinz Field or whatever it's called now, and they intercept Kyle 5 times. Traumatic experience for him. 3 pick sixes in the first half, and top of the world. But I talk to people with what he is, and I'm just like, if I'm a guy who ran that defense to that point, okay, hot commodity, red hot, intercepted. Calvin McCord, as much as we talk trash on him, he's probably gonna be a 2nd-round pick. He'll be a guy that a team will hang their hat on and draft. But they lost 6 straight after that game, man, and it's like, their last game that they coached in, the Pitt Panthers, was Toledo. I think they lost in like 4 overtimes or something crazy. And I don't know. I mean, this is a different world right now, because you're talking about hiring somebody. If it's Joe Cullen, if it's Randy Bates, if you do the double promotion with Tim Walton and Matt Guerrieri, it's just like you're looking at, okay, so what did you do what did you guys do in December? So, if you're Randy Bates, Randy Bates is an Ohio State alumni, is an undergrad from Ohio State, his dream job was to be the head coaches at Ohio State. Never played here, never coached here, wasn't a student assistant, but he was at Northwestern for a long time, came to Pitt. His dream job is Ohio State. So if you bring him in and he's the sound in that chair as co-DC with either Tim Walton or Matt Guerrieri, and he tries to change the scheme on him, he'd be like, well, look, dude, like when you were losing to Toledo and giving up 50 points to Toledo, we were beating, I don't know, Texas and Notre Dame and Oregon and whoever else. Because again, this is a radical situation. And again, I've, when we do a podcast early yesterday, I've got a lot of stuff to roll around in my head when we have this long of a break between podcasts, where it's like, well, if I'm Larry Johnson and James Laurinaitis and Matt Guerrieri and, OG Walt, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this guy's going to come teach us about defense. The guy that gave up 50 points to Toledo, where we were out here scraping and clawing and bleeding to win a national title. Because, in general, when you do a coordinator hire, there's multiple people that get fired. Usually somebody gets moved on from, as opposed to Jim Knowles just moving on. So, when Jim Knowles moved on, in general, if you're like a super high level coordinator like Jim Knowles, he's going to bring a couple guys with him. Like if you're a great coordinator at a MAC school or a lower Big Ten school, like you're going to bring your folks with you the same way the head coaches do. If a head coach leaves a program, generally he's going to bring a strength coach. Generally he's going to bring his personnel guy. It's like when Urban Meyer showed up from here, he brought Mickey Marotti, Pantoni, Voltolini, Stan Drayton. He wanted as many of his guys as he could get here. So this is kind of a unique situation where Jim Knowles left as the coordinator of the number 1 defense in the country. And the person that I think is the best coordinator in the country on either side of the ball is Jim Knowles. He didn't take any of the guys with him. So this guy's also sitting in that staff room, and they're like waiting for our new leader to show up. And it's very delicate. I'm just telling you, like Tim Walton's a guy who's 53 years old. I think that there's some ageism there where it's like, Matt Guerrieri, who I think is a big upside, and Ryan said all these wild superlatives, like smartest human being of all time on defense and everything else he said at the celebration. Like, does Tim Walton want to answer to a 35-year-old? I don't know. Does Larry Johnson want to? I mean, Larry's over 70, so I mean, do you want to salute a kid who's half your age? LJ wants nothing to do with being the DC, but Tim Walton wants to be the DC. So, it's gonna be fascinating. Again, I'm like, whoever this guy is going to be, in all likelihood, whoever comes in to take Jim Knowles' spot will end up being, I would think, a co-DC. Now, I don't know who the other co is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be Tim Walton or Matt Guerrieri. If you don't make Matt Guerrieri the other DC, do you risk losing him? Does Tim Walton try to go to the NFL? I don't know. It's a totally different quagmire than on offense, where Chip Kelly leaves, and I mean Justin Fry leaves, and Tim Drevno. I would bet, if it's not announced yet, I'd bet a lot of money he's going to go to Vegas with Chip. I know Brendan Carroll's the official offensive line coach, but I think Tim Drevno is going to be the assistant line coach. And as I said, in the NFL, teams have two line coaches. There's always an offensive line coach and an assistant, but they get paid pretty similar. And if Chip's getting $6 million to be the offensive coordinator, he's going to have a big say in who is on that staff. He's going to pick the whole staff. I get Pete Carroll gets to name his son the O-line coach, but everybody else is going to be Chip's selections. So, interesting times for Ryan. And again, he named Brian Hartline the offensive coordinator, which we broke yesterday. And Brian's got his work cut out for him, man, because he's the most beloved coach in Ohio State history. But our coordinators are generally not overly beloved, so it'll be interesting to see how this rolls forward with Join saying. Nevada, any thoughts on that? Because this is going to be this is as wild of an offseason as I've ever seen, because we have so many guys to replace. The portal, both coordinators gone. Maybe the most not maybe the most talented offensive line development factory of the three coaches that are gone. Because you got to remember, we're losing Justin Fry to the Arizona Cardinals as the headline coach. I project Tim Drevno goes to the Las Vegas Raiders as the assistant line coach, and then Mike Salini is going to UNLV as their headline coach. So it's like you have three guys. Two went to the NFL, basically as head guys, and then Mike Salini went to UNLV with Corey Dennis and Dan Mullen as a headline coach. So that's a big talent drain, man. There's nobody left in that. It's not like you can have the grad assistant or the second O-line coach working with these guys. They're all gone. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, well, I think the internal politics of this thing are what make this whole thing so interesting. And, I think, everybody just kind of assumes a guy like Tim Walton is going to be happy his whole life just coaching defensive backs at Ohio State, or that Brian Hartline is going to be happy his whole life coaching wide receivers at Ohio State. And that's just not the way it works. And these guys all want to move up. Brian's 38, Tim's 53, which in coaching years, that's not very old. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got a long runway ahead of you. And Tim Walton, I believe, has been a defensive coordinator before. So it's not like he hasn't sat in the big chair, done the job before. And I think for Ryan, it just, you've got to pick the guy that you want to have it, but you've also got to consider the staff implications and how it, kind of paints their future at Ohio State and how they start feeling about their longevity there, their commitment, their loyalty. Is their loyalty, is Brian Hartline's 9 years of loyalty that he's given to Ohio State, is that being reciprocated? And I think that was a big thing in terms of the consideration for Ryan when he's looking at an offensive coordinator position. Well, same thing on the DC job. Tim Walton played here at Ohio State, a guy that's been here for a bit. And now do you promote somebody over him and like you said, especially somebody younger? And I just think the dynamics of that, on top of, we haven't even mentioned the Larry Johnson thing. And I mean, Larry's a handful to deal with. And so, look, we all love Larry. We're all really happy that Larry's here. Two-time national champion coach at Ohio State. That's rare air indeed. But as you can imagine, for a guy that's that age, that's that accomplished, he has very strong opinions on how he wants to do his work. And he really doesn't want to hear a lot about it from other people, and that creates another challenge for the defensive coordinator. Um, that was part of the mix on why Jim Knowles left. Obviously that was a complicated situation. There's a lot of elements there, but as you can imagine, a new guy coming in is going to have to deal with Larry Johnson on top of all this. So um, I think the offensive coordinator one was easier for Ryan. I think that was a little bit more straightforward. But this defensive coordinator one, you bring in a guy like Joe Cullen who's got the NFL pedigree, multiple time Super Bowl champion. You know, I think that's the one thing that nobody could say anything to. I think Randy Bates with the Pittsburgh thing, hey, look, he's a current defensive coordinator. They've been successful, and people can look at the defenses and say, well, he gave this many points to this team, or they're only ranked this, but he's got pit talent. So I don't care who you are. You can have the greatest X's and O's, but if you don't have the Jimmies and Joes, that becomes problematic. And Jim Knowles, if you looked at where Oklahoma State was ranked, I think it was right about the same thing, 81st or something like that in defense. Now, they created a lot of havoc. They created a lot of pressure. They certainly were, that kind of a defense. But, to me, Randy, with his OSU ties and understanding, I think he could be the right mix. But like I said, Joe Cullen, I keep hearing people say that, that Ryan Day is really kind of enamored with that NFL pedigree and what that could mean to the defensive side and what that could bring to the room. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that one shakes out, and I'm sure I have absolute trust that Ryan will make the right decision. I think he's learned a lot, and he certainly has earned all of our benefit of the doubt on this. But yeah, he's got a big decision to make there.
Yeah, like I said, I think that the defensive thing is way tougher because you have all of these guys sitting in the staff room already. I mean, you hire a new coordinator and he's going to walk in and there's Larry sitting there. There's James Laurinaitis. So you've got your front seven is locked in. Then you've got your two secondary guys, Tim Walton and Matt Guerrero. And I'm just telling you, like, if you're hiring a big time coordinator, it's much easier if that staff room's cleaned out a little bit and you can say, okay, you can bring two guys with you and pick a secondary guy, pick a front seven guy. But with what Larry's brought and the people and the loyalty, it's tough to get rid of him. With James being obviously three-time All-American and what he's done at Ohio State, hard to get rid of him. OG Walt is like beloved and a cult hero for Ohio State and his guys, so it's hard to get rid of him. And then Matt Gray is like the young prodigy, so it's hard to get rid of him. And it's got a Caleb Downslum. So it's a different world, man. I'm telling you, when one of these guys shows up and says, hey, we're going to do it this way, they're like, well, show me your hardware, show me your national championships. And again, even Joe Cullen, I mean, he's a front four, he's a D-line coach. So, I mean, for someone to look at the whole thing moving forward, I mean, that's why a lot of the great coordinators are safety guys. So they run the safeties, Saban, Jim Knowles, like it all starts with the safety. So like when you're looking from that back end forward, you can see everything. When you're a front four guy like Joe Cullen is or Larry is, like they can't put the whole photo together. And again, it's not their fault. This is what it is. And Joe Cullen was Urban's DC, so I'm sure that's where Ryan got the endorsement from. He's been around Baltimore, he's been around some very exotic fronts, but like when I was a young aspiring offensive line coach, like I didn't care about the second, or I didn't care about the periphery and the receivers and excuse me, the rest, because I was worried about, are we blocking the front? Are we picking up the blitzes? Are we pass protecting? Whatever. As opposed to, I can't worry about Jeremiah Smith running his route if my left tackle is getting scorched and we're giving up a sack fumble or a pressure or whatever. So it's the same difference with Larry. That's why Larry doesn't have a desire to be a DC, because he's a front four guy and he's really good at it. He's the best ever. But yeah, on offense, it'll also be pretty fascinating because you got Hartline taking over the controls, and I mean it's kind of go time for him, and he's going to be dealt. I don't want to say a light hand, because you have JJ and Ennis and Cornell Tate, you're going to have a pretty heavy hand there, but you got a new quarterback, you got to break in a couple new tackles. The two tailbacks will be good with Peoples and Donaldson Jr., who we paid a lot of money to. Like, our offense will still be potent. And outside of Texas, our schedule is pretty soft. Obviously, Jim Knowles will be ready to come to town and eat Brian Hartline's lunch. So that'll be exciting when he comes in November. But Brian's got to have a hold of that play sheet. And again, he has to prove to Ryan that he doesn't have to snatch it out of his hands, which, 2 years ago he had to because Brian wasn't ready. But, Brian's not a spring chicken anymore. He's not some young 27-year-old, 28-year-old intern. I mean, he's 38 years old. A year ago, like I said last night, we were talking about Liam Cohen being the next OC, and Liam Cohen didn't get the job, and it ends up going, he ends up going to Tampa Bay, and now he's the head coach of the Jags. He's 39, so he's literally 1 year older than Brian, both born in November, and he's the head coach of an NFL program. So, again, the time's now for Brian, because, guys that are his age, especially when he's been around the program for like 9 years, like there's nothing left to really learn as a receiver coach. And again, spending a year with Chip Kelly should help him develop the running game. But if the running game's not good, then that's going to come down to our line coach and whoever we hire, which again, that's why I thought Wilson would be fantastic. I don't know if he wants to be a line coach, but that would be a boon. I really don't know who else we would hire or who we could hire. There could be some ancillary name that could come up, but yeah, I mean, like Kevin Wilson would be great because you have to understand in coaching, like there's people that don't have pure motivations in a staff room, and when you get Brian out there, who's a neophyte play caller, he's never called a play in his life, and when he screws the pooch eventually and has a bad game, like everybody does, like Chip Kelly's done, like Ryan Day's done, like everybody's done. If you have someone who's nefarious and doesn't have his back, then it can get bad quick. Because again, Urban used to always talk about alignment and making sure people are on the same page, but I don't think Kevin Wilson would be a guy that would cut Brian Hartline's legs off, but some of these older guys might. And that's something that I'm curious about with the defensive group too, because when you've got 4 coaches in that room, they just ran the gauntlet. They just won Survivor or whatever reality show where they said, well, we lost Michigan and we got beat to death by this fan base. And then we beat Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame all in a row, while you lost to Toledo or whatever. So again, that'll be fascinating to see. It's something it's like when someone suggests something, I was like, well, you were, giving up 50 to Toledo and losing 6 in a row. We were running the table and beating really good teams in the Big Ten and everything else. So again, this is going to be as fascinating of a hire and a mesh of inside the Woody Hayes when these rooms get together as I've ever seen. And I'm excited about it. Nevada, you have any thoughts on that? We'll start digging into some super chats.
No, I just think I think this is just it's a huge challenge for Ryan Day, and as you said, hiring coordinators, you like to have a guy who's got the kind of that safety experience, those guys that see the whole field, kind of like the same way they do it in Major League Baseball with catchers. Catchers, in my opinion, I found they make the best managers because catchers kind of see everything that kind of goes out there. They run the whole game. They see where the infielders are positioned. They obviously call balls and strikes with the pitchers and kind of go through that. And so I think it's a really similar thing with safeties and how they're, just their kind of global approach to the game is really important. But Ryan's, Ryan wants to go on a dynastic run. Ryan wants to be really, really badly known as one of the greatest, if not the greatest coaches ever at Ohio State. And what's the next step to do it? He had to win one. There was no way. Didn't matter how many times you beat Purdue and Iowa and dominate the Big Ten and win 97% of your games. If you don't win the national championship, then he knows that, that it wasn't even, it was a non-start. He was never even going to be considered. But now that he's done that, now you win a second one. Now you win a second one at Ohio State, and you're absolutely in the pantheon of greats. You're literally right up there with Woody Hayes at that point. And I think that's really important for Ryan Day, and he's going to have to keep his staff together. He's going to have to reconfigure his staff because he knew that when they won, it was just a matter of time for Chip Kelly to move on. He was lucky to have him the first time. Think about it. When we first started talking about Chip Kelly, he was the freaking head coach at UCLA. So what were the odds that he was going to leave being the head coach at UCLA to become a coordinator at Ohio State. Just when you say that out loud, it just sounds patently ridiculous that we even thought that that was possible, but it happened. So, the fact that we got him, due to just a flurry of different circumstances, I just feel blessed that we got to see it. We got to see him at Ohio State. But Ryan knew that day was going to come and was going to have to move on. So he's going to have new challenges now. I'm excited for it. I think it makes football in 2025 spicy. And, we're going to be one of the top 3 teams in the country. We've got probably still have the best returning talent of anybody in the country. And I'm excited to see what the new era holds for Ohio State. And I think we're going to be right. I think we may start slow, but we'll be right back there at the end again. And in a 12-team playoff, that's where you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I worry about the Texas game, but I also don't worry because if we drop it, we can still make the playoffs and make a run. But it's gonna be tough. I mean, those guys are gonna be out for blood. And again, I talk about motivation and being on the wrong side of a game where you lose it. And Texas has got a lot of motivation. Those guys, they know that if they want to beat us, they probably won the national championships. I always, like I said in the show leading up to the Texas game, I thought that was the national championship. It's like, if we beat Texas, we'll steamroll Notre Dame. Notre Dame's not going to be a problem. And 31-7. I know we let them back into it, but that was, come on. Texas has got 10 times more talent than those guys do. But I don't know. Like, it's going to be fascinating. And again, Chip Kelly, I didn't think he'd leave after a year. And again, this is me just being dense and maybe a little slow. I know that he interviewed for the Steelers and a bunch of other jobs kind of on the down low last year. Didn't get him, but I think if it was even or close, he would have stayed. But you get $6 million, dude, to be a coordinator in the NFL and break every record. It's like, gotta go. I mean, he likes the West Coast. He lives in Manhattan Beach, God's country, and he is like I said, I'm like you. I am just happy I get to see Ohio State's jerseys running his offense in real life in my lifetime. It was splendid, especially in the playoffs where he's dicing people up. And when people say that Chip Kelly is not a coach or the game's passing by or they're just stupid as hell, like, I'm just like, you just don't know anything about ball. You don't know anything about football. You honestly don't know anything about sports. But like, when you're talking to me about Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles not knowing, I was like, that's the best set of coordinators we're ever going to see at Ohio State, in my opinion. First, number one offense, and then number one defense, and then that offense that Chip ran. And, I talked all year. I was like, this is probably the best staff in school history. And people thought I was crazy. But when you look back at it now, a month or whatever it is, a month and a couple of days later, I mean, Chip's the highest paid NFL coordinator of all time. Jim Knowles, highest paid college coach or college coordinator of all time. Justin Fry, NFL offensive line coach. Tim Drevno is going to be basically the assistant line coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. Mike Salini, UNLV's headline. So they had 3 guys that got full-time jobs, 2 of them in the NFL. I mean, we'll never have 2 guys get NFL jobs in the same year ever again. I don't think. Again, you can prove me wrong, but that's crazy. So it was a good time, but it's time to reload and get ready to roll. I got a bunch of super chats. Nevada, any thoughts before we dig into some of these?
No, just it's like I said, it's just another challenge, and that's how the fans need to look at it. It's a chance for us to up maybe not be better, but be different, and different is sometimes kind of fun too. And I'm looking forward to what the differences are in 2025.
I'm just glad we got rid of that Knowles guy.
Yeah, gimmicky.
Oh my god! Well,
the $2 million man.
He's
$2 million.
He's the $3.1 million man now, baby.
Exactly.
If you can scratch that out.
He was cheap.
He was a monster. All right. John A., thank you for the 5. Kirk, how long did it take you to realize you could play and play well at Ohio State, Nevada OH? Pretty early, I'd say. So something that was great about Ohio State is that we had a conditioning test on the first day of camp. Now, when I was a young lad reporting to Ohio State, there was no like Maurice Clarett was like the first guy to ever enroll winter class, and my high school did not offer it. Most high schools did not offer it because internet classes weren't a big thing. So Most of my class, outside of Ashton Yabodi and Dante Whitner, we all enrolled in August. So like August 5th, I'll never forget, it was our first day. And the first day you come to training camp and it's like young 18-year-old kid and you're walking into the team meeting room and you're with Will Smith and Tim Anderson and Craig Krenzel, like all the guys that just beat the Miami Hurricanes. Basically, it was like 19 returning starters. So, we're in this meeting and going through all the paperwork, and then we get done with the paperwork. It's probably 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And I remember Tress, and I love Jim Tressel to death, and I love Jim Bowman to death. But they read this poem, and it was something like every morning in Africa, there's like a gazelle that wakes up and a lion wakes up, and the lion knows that he must outrun the slowest gazelle, and the slowest gazelle knows he must outrun the fastest lion. And it was something like it. And so this is a moral and a story, and the moral of the story is that no matter what, when you wake up in the morning, you better be ready to run, or something like that. And he would always read this, and I didn't get it because I was young and stupid and didn't realize what this meant. This meant we had our conditioning test the next morning at 5 a.m. So like we have our conditioning test at 5 a.m. at Ohio State. Now, mighty Jim Bowman, who I love to death, like a father, never told me that we had a conditioning test. And our conditioning test was 20 half gassers. A half gasser is the width of the field, the 53 yards down back. That's one gasser. So you have to do that 20 times with a 30-second break in between. So, I had trained all summer for whatever Al Johnson, who was our strength coach, told us to do. I did it like letter perfect to a T. And there were some days where I'd do the workout twice, like the sprint workouts and stuff, because I was like, I am not about to show up as a 3-star kid out of shape. So I was like in ripper shape, and like I crushed this conditioning test. Now, there were guys that were a year older than me, like TJ Downing and some of these guys that were slower, not in as good a shape. And TJ made the test, but I killed everybody. And I was like sprinting everyone, and it was no thing. And I remember like in that moment, I was like, I can hang with these guys. Like, I'm not scared of these guys. And there were a bunch of guys in my class that fell out of the test. They were, they got through 7 or 8 sprints and laying on the ground, dead, sucking wind, like failed the test. And then there's me, I'm down at my end and I'm just crushing everybody in it. So when I did that, I was like, I know I can play here. And then we got into the camp, and I had to convert positions to tackle, and I had to get better and better. But I was like, like I'm dedicated to it, and I'm not scared of anything, and I'm not scared of these guys. And I always joke about blocking Will Smith as a freshman, and Will Smith was a senior All-American, and that was a bludgeoning where I got destroyed a lot. But you figure out stuff quick when you're going against a guy like Will and how good he is and what he likes to do, and you just try to hang in there a little bit better every time. And Will was always a great teacher, taught me a lot of stuff about playing. As a defensive end, he taught me a lot about playing offensive tackle. Which again, it's not always super intuitive, but it's kind of like if Roger Clemens is teaching someone how to take it at bat in a baseball game or something, it's like, hey, this is something you do, tips what you're gonna do, whatever. But he was great about that, and I love him to death. And God rest his soul. And I hope his son switches to 93 and gets to wear his dad's number, because he should, because Hero Canu's gone out. And I always thought it always kind of pissed me off that Hero Canu wore 93 when Will Smith Jr. was here, but again, we have a lot of people at Ohio State that don't respect tradition and don't understand tradition, but Will Smith Jr. should wear 93 going forward. But I knew after that conditioning test I could play. And when I got, and you have to say, when you're like a lower rated guy, like you take out the anxiety of being lower rated on the higher rated guys, because you go against a lot of freshmen and redshirt freshmen that are your age or you're younger. And so when I get to see those guys in the field, I wanted to beat their ass every time I saw them, because they had a little bit easier recruiting session. So I'd get on that field, and it was time, because everybody gets the same shoulder pads and same game pants and all that. So when they had to come see me on the field, I was gonna beat their ass, and I did. And it was something that I always took a lot of pleasure in, because when I could embarrass them and make their position coach scream at them and yell at them, it always felt great. I mean, it was like one of the most cathartic things I've ever been through, because when you can, humiliate somebody on the practice field and they get yelled at and then you get praised, feels good. So again, that was something that I was always really proud of. So that's what I could play. Next question, Jim Dushel. Appreciate you, my dude. Thanks for the 20. He said, I don't like Bears because he's 61 or 62. I don't know if it's going to be Barry. I don't know if you can relate to the players, Instagram and all that goes with it. Cullen brings credibility. Nevada, do you have any thoughts on that? This is, I think, between the two DC candidates, between Pitt and the Kansas City Chiefs. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, look, Bates is whatever he is, early 60s or whatever it is. But I've made this point several times on our message board. I know people are like kind of fascinated with the idea of defensive coordinators being like great recruiters, but how many great recruiters have we had that have been defensive coordinators at Ohio State?
None.
None. I mean, the guys have
None.
famously
Yeah.
not been great recruiters. So I don't. Would it be nice? Sure, it'd be nice. Is it something that's really important to me? Not to me. It's
No.
just not, because I think that's why you have your smooth talking James Laurinaitis or OG Walt or Larry Johnson or whomever. The defensive coordinator. I just want you scheme it up, man. You scheme it up, and you be a fast processor and be able to call those defensive plays on the fly and be able to do that stuff like that. If you can recruit, that's better. But I don't remember us ever having a dynamic recruiting defensive coordinator at Ohio State. And maybe I'm missing one, or maybe there was a guy 1 year here, or when Luke was a co-defensive coordinator. But I just don't see it. I don't think it's an absolutely necessary skill set. And to me, it's way down the list of the most important skill sets when I'm looking for a DC.
Well, I think that you're spot on, because, would you rather have Jim Knowles be Mr. Smooth jive turkey guy, or would you rather him run the number one defense of the country? Like, again, we live in this world where we have, if I ran the world and I ran Ohio State football, I would say, look, okay, we're going to have, adults, veterans, we're going to have Jim Knowles and whoever as our coordinators. And then we're going to have the young crew, the young Turks, whatever you're going to call them, and they can go out and recruit. Because again, like, you have to understand, like, during this playoff run, when Jim Knowles is getting ready to beat Notre Dame, they're sending Pantone on the road, and they're sending all these also ran personnel guys, on the road, because our coaches couldn't go on the road. They're too busy getting ready for practice and game planning. So why not do that full time? Like, why would you send Jim Knowles on the road when he hates it? Chip Kelly, Chip Kelly's got to go to 2 high schools and then go sit at Arby's and drink a Jamocha shake and dream about flying to Manhattan Beach. It's like, why would you make these guys that are 65 years old and hate going on the road? They're like A+ everywhere. A+ coaches, A+ talent developer, A+ coaching staff developer, F- recruiter. I'm like, well, in the world that we live in now, you can put if you have 10 guys on the road, or 9 guys, whatever the number is, you can put anybody on the road. I mean, they put Mark Pantone on the road. Pantone has no personality, but they put him on the road because they needed someone to go on the road. So why not get a bunch of guys and say, hey, I'm an emissary of Ohio State. I'm going to put you on the phone with Chip Kelly. Here's Chip. How are you? And blah, blah, blah. It's like, because these kids don't care. Here's the thing. Maybe 10 years ago, pre-NIL, maybe these kids, Chip Kelly's at my high school, and this is great. I mean, Ryan still has to go because the head coach has to go. He's the rock star. But in general, like, the coordinators, nobody knows who the coordinators are ever. This year was different because of Chip Kelly being a superstar. But, like, if we get, Joe Cullen, these kids don't know who he is. You send him down to Chaminade, Madonna, they don't know who he is. You can go send a GA down there and it'll be the same effect because they don't care. Outside of, like, Ryan Day, you have to send him to the schools where the kids commit to, because he's a face and people know him from TV and stuff. And it's like when Urban was at Ohio. I mean, Urban walking through high schools like Mick Jagger, Tressel after the title. But other than that, man, like, I would rather have a stone cold killer coordinator as your the guy running the room, growing the defense, you know, developing the staff, which I think Jim Knowles was fantastic about, then having him go out and schlep around these high schools, and he doesn't know how to use Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or any of that stuff, so he's not hip. And I don't know. I honestly think you'd get a better quality. Like if Nevada said, Kirk, I've endowed the head coaching and GM position to you, and it's now the Nevadabuck general manager position, I'd say, well, all right. So with our new coordinator hires, we're going to get 2 stone cold football coaches that are elite, and we'll say, look, here's the deal: if you go to Bama or Georgia or Texas, you got to go recruit and act like a schmo. With us, you just got to coach ball, and we're going to hire 2 Padawans for you that can go out and do your recruiting for you, and they'll get you on the phone, they'll put you on FaceTime with the kid, and hey, we can't wait to see you, but we're grinding and trying to make sure that making sure that this position works perfect. And so I didn't get to make it out there, but I love you to death and can't wait to see you up in the shoe and whatever, because that's kind of what it is. I mean, these old guys don't want to recruit, but I don't know. Like, I wish that I could name an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator that was like some dynamic recruiter, but I guess Tom Herman, maybe. I never heard anything about Ed Warner when he was the OC. Tim Beck, Mike Yursich, no. Chip Kelly, no. Kevin Wilson, no. So again, I can't think of a coordinator that's been a dominating recruiter where we're like, damn, when we put him as a coordinator, it was just like this combine harvester that was just picking up all these 5 stars. I can't think of it. Nevada, am I wrong? Can you think of anybody else?
No, I mean, like I said, I can't think of anybody, and like I said, I again, it'd be great. It's kind of like when you're picking a hockey player. Of course, you want somebody who's got size, strength, pedigree, skating, vision. You want every attribute, but not everybody's that way, and so you've got to kind of rank them. And for me, for a coordinator, just recruiting chops is just way down the list of important items. Just for me, that's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, arguably, like in Ohio State history, if you combine Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles' recruiting palace, probably the worst combined recruiting palace in history for 2 coordinators. I mean, honestly, I bet a lot of money it's probably the worst we've ever had. But did it matter? We won a national title. We had the number 1 defense in the country. We had the number 1, what I think was the best offense in the country. Now, I know we lost to Michigan, whatever, but like, did it matter? Not to me. I mean, I don't care. I mean, go have those. Again, if you want to be progressive and be really smart, Ryan Day, listen to our show. Pantone, listen to the show. Turn the volume up in your headphones real loud. If you want to get the best coaches in the country, take recruiting off their plate, especially a coordinator. I mean, say, hey, we want you, and I know Clemson wants you and Bama wants you. You don't have to recruit anymore. We'll hire emissaries that will pay $75,000 a year to go to all these schools and say, hey, we're here. And I know that it won't have the cachet of sending Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles, but hire some young bucks and have them be like when Pantone was young and used to work really hard. I mean, he knew everything about every recruit, and he had these crazy relationships, super in-depth, deep. He doesn't do that anymore because he doesn't have to, because he doesn't want to. But like, hire a couple of those guys, like hungry guys. Like when Pantone was in his prime, go hire those types of guys and just say, hey, we're going to build this thing out. We can't wait to get you to campus. Get to campus. We're going to take us to dinner, host you at the Woody, bring you out to practice, do the whole 9 yards. Because then it's like a double-edged sword, because you get young bucks that are hungry to get into the profession in the recruiting realm, and then you get the best caliber coaches that don't have to go out and recruit. Because again, I want my coordinators to be old heads that have been in wars and they've won battles and they've won championships. Like, I don't want it to be, again, it's nothing against Matt Guerrieri, but it's like a 35-year-old who's never coached above Indiana or Duke. Like, I'm not dying for that, in my opinion. So again, that's just my opinion, but I could be wrong. Matters Prime Entertainment, thanks for the 5. Thanks for being awesome as well. Isn't this a typical James Franklin type thing to do? Their problem is their offense, not defense. Knowles doesn't scare me with their offense. Thoughts? Nevada, what are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, Penn State doesn't. There's nothing about Penn State that's scary to me. Just because, as long as James Franklin's your head coach, I just feel like they're going to find a way to gack the game away. And certainly when we're playing in Columbus, has been a house of horrors for Penn State, and I don't have any doubt that it's going to be any different this year. So no, there's nothing. I mean, I hate to lose Knowles because I like Jim Knowles, but he gave us a national championship. I'm forever grateful to. I really, really will have fond memories of him here at Ohio State. But now he's the enemy, so he's dead to me. So go on, do your thing, and I mean they'll be a good challenge. But it's not like Penn State's not going to be like the next big dog of the Big Ten. You're never going to be that way with James Franklin as your head coach. You're just not. The teams take on the identity of their head coach. It's been this way forever and ever in college football. And James Franklin is who he is. Doesn't matter who the coordinators are going to come and go, players are going to come and go, but James Franklin is who he is. And that's just, he's a good coach, not a great coach, not even a really good. He's just good. He's fine. He's good enough to keep his job at Penn State, and that's kind of what they have.
And you got to remember, like, he went viral for screaming at fans after they lost to Ohio State. So, again, he's not beloved, and most of the fan base wants him replaced because we own them. Of all the programs in this country that we own, like, there's nobody we own like Penn State, and they have to come to the shoe this year, so not worried at all. Sergio Sama, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my dude. Thank God we didn't hire Liam Cohen. That guy's face is more offensive than Carson Beck. Well, Liam is the guy that, I mean, you want to talk about ascending. I mean, he goes to Tampa and has a great year with Baker and is on the verge of being the highest paid coordinator in the NFL prior to Chip Kelly getting his deal. And he gets Shad Khan, who's a really sharp business guy. Obviously, he was stupid with Urban, fired Doug Peterson. He's got a $400 million yacht sitting in the docks of New Orleans right now. But like he gets him to fire his GM Trent Baalke because Liam Cohen didn't want to coexist with Trent Baalke. So, Shad Khan wanted him so bad that he fired the GM and hired Liam Cohen and paid him $70 million to be a coach. And again, he's Brian Hartline's age. He's 1 year older than Brian. I looked it up. They're both born in November. One's 85, one's 86. Because I'm 84, and so. That was the guy Rod was looking at, and we passed on him last year for Bill O'Brien, and he was at Kentucky, and kind of again, a lot of these guys, they're nobodies until they're somebodies. Like, I mean, Liam Cohen, if you'd have told me December of 2023, no idea who that guy is, no clue. And then January 24, could Ryan Day be interested in Liam Cohen? Never heard of him. We passed on him. Okay, fine. 2 weeks later, he goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, takes Baker and Pro Bowl and Mike Evans and the rest. And then a year later, he's like the hottest commodity in the world where Shad Khan, again, who's one of the richest owners in the NFL, fires everybody to hire him and pays him a fortune. So I don't know. But that's why when people say, is Brian ready to be the coordinator? I'm like, hell, I mean, Liam Cohen is now a head coach in the NFL. And I mean, a year ago, we were interviewing him to be our OC. So I don't know. Nevada, any thoughts on Liam Cohen?
He's a very unattractive person. He is very, very unattractive. I mean, looking at him would have been hard for no matter how long he'd have been here, a week, a month, a year. He's very unfortunate looking. So just on that alone, I'm glad that we passed on him. Not a handsome dude.
Chad Russell, thanks for the 5. Zach Smith from Menace seems to think that Brian Hartline will not be the OC. What do you guys know that he doesn't? Nevada OH. Well, I think that, and again, I love Zach. I talk to Zach all the time. I think Zach is wrong. Yeah, and again, I'll happily take a bet with Zach on if Brian becomes the OC versus whoever he thinks it's going to be. But I think Brian is. I mean, he's been in the program for 9 years. I mean, you can't. I mean, you got to break the glass at some point. You got to get out of the nest at some point and actually grow as a coach. You can't just be a position coach for your whole life. But again, Nevada, you can chime in on this as well. But I can't believe that Brian Hartline won't be the OC. I just can't. I mean, you can go out and hire some other guy and some other old head, some old white-haired white dude to come do it. But Brian, I think, deserves it. And I think that, the difference this time is that he had a year with Chip Kelly, and Ryan has to figure out if he can do it or not. Because again, like, you can sit in the background and be a receiver coach and coach releases and routes and recruit and everything. But, do you want to be a head coach at Ohio State one day? You got to become a coordinator and prove you can run on one side of the ball. So I fully expect Brian Hartline to be promoted and become the next full-time offensive coordinator. Nevada, any thoughts on that?
Well, you have to understand that. I mean, and we like Zach, and we like Zach a lot. But if there's one blind spot that Zach's got at Ohio State, it's Brian Hartline because Zach was the off. Think about what Zach's background. He was the wide receiver coach at Ohio State, and Brian Hartline was brought in to replace him when everything went down as the wide receivers coach at Ohio State. And we've talked about successor syndrome. We've talked about different things, and it's only natural that it's hard to see somebody that came in to replace you to ascend to whatever. And I'm sure that bugs him. But I mean, Zach also has different sources than we do. And Zach may be being told something different. This is what we've been told. I was told this independently from a couple of people, and then Kirk got it independently from somebody else, and that's when we decided to go with it because I'm 100% confident in this information because you just think about the nature of the beast in college sports now with instantaneous free agency, transfer portal, things like that. When you lose your offensive coordinator, the first thing you have to do is you have to go to your key players and reassure them that everything's going to be okay, that they're going to be taken care of, that things are all right. And so, without giving things away, those are the types of guys that generally know what's going to happen next in terms of who's going to get jobs, what's going to happen. Because, the players, they're free agents. They all can leave. They all can go. There's another portal window coming up after spring football. And do you really want your guys kind of going out there and looking and moving on down the path? Or do you want to, kind of create the path for it from inside? So I feel really good about the information, feel really good about it. And yeah, I'm with Kirk. If Zach wants to bet on this, we're available. He knows how to get a hold of us, and we'll take wagers on this one.
Yeah. And again, like if you're, Ryan Day, and you lose Chip Kelly and you see Jeremiah Smith tweet the teardrop emojis and the no and what, it's like the only person you could possibly make the offensive coordinator that would make JJ thrilled and excited is Brian Hartline. It's not Jason Candle. It's not Joe Moorhead. It's not any other slapdick, old white dude that you bring in from anywhere who's some retread, former head coach, former OC. Brian is the guy that him, Tate, and Ennis will rally around, and they'll say, hey, guess what? This is your guy. This is the guy you guys all came here for. This is his shot. How hard do you want to go to help out the guy who believed in you when you were young and is here to develop you? And, again, JJ Smith says, well, as long as Brian Hartline's the coach here, I'm good. I don't need to entertain portal offers or do anything else. So it's like, what's the best thing you could do for Brian? Promote him, make him the head guy. Say, hey guys, like, look, this is your guy. This is your boy. You came here because of him. You trust in him. How hard do you want to go for him? Not Joe Moorhead, not any of the any Jason Candle, whoever else you want to name. It's just like it was the logical step. Ryan promoted him 2 years ago. It was a disaster. He went and got Chip Kelly, and Brian hopefully had his notebook out, was paying attention to what Chip Kelly taught and did and how he game planned and everything else. And Chips is probably the smartest offensive coach in the history of the game. So hopefully Brian develops some more. But this is a slam dunk. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Because again, when your offense is really good, your skill guys are excited. Like, don't be a wet blanket and bring in some guy who wants to change the system and change the terminology. And it would still be Ryan's offense. I get it. But if you want to put nitrous oxide into JJ Smith's veins, it's called make Hartline the OC. Because after losing Chip Kelly and how good our offense was, The only way to make these guys remotely excited about heading into spring ball in this next year is to make their boy the OC, and they did it. So again, when this gets announced, it'll be fantastic, and I'm super excited for Brian and for JJ and see what these guys can do. Jim Jackson, thanks for the 10. I appreciate you, brother. I hope you and the wife are doing good. Tonight, weeks later, watching the third and 11th pass from Howard to JJ to steal the championship brought tears to my eyes. The joy Coach Jay showed on the sideline. So proud to be a Buckeye. Love y'all. Jim, you're the best, my man. It brought tears to my eyes because I had been, I think, broadcasting for 6 straight hours at that point, and I was withering away while Nevada was in the stands having fun, loving life with his family. And I'm hour number 25 straight of podcasting and live streaming, and Nevada had no love or joy or care or hope for me, but
nope.
I was still there. I was still there grinding it away. And I was like, thank God we won this game, because I spent 7 hours live streaming it. But no, it was a great night. Again, Will Howard, who I was well ahead of Nevada and saying how good he was. Nevada, he couldn't buy into it. I said, Will Howard's good. Nevada, not sure. Avery Young, he was listening to Derek Young from the Kansas State site saying how Will Howard was, they cleaned his locker out and they put his all of his clothes in a big bag of manure and said, you can't play here no more. Get on, young boy. And he shows up to Ohio State and he turns into the greatest quarterback and has the greatest quarterbacking season in Ohio State history. Nevada was not a believer. I was. So Nevada, your mea culpa and your ability to apologize is here now. You can, I know that you're a big McCord guy and you're sad when Kyle and Derek McCord left and went to that big sad story in the NFL sky. But yeah, Will Howard and JJ, something that we'll never see again. And it makes me really sad that people don't realize how good Will Howard was, but I loved every second of it. And I said I would, and Trey and Quinshawn and Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles and the whole crew. But they won the title. And Nevada, your thoughts on Will Howard to JJ, the no deep ball mechanics, shoddy player, bad, throws the deep ball to seal the national title. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want fun, if you want to have a battle of the most uninspiring big game calls of all time, you can put side by side. You can have Paul Keels calling that play on one hand, and then you can put Kirk Barton on a split screen on the other side. It's like I'm gonna do the calls, right? Okay, 3rd down and 8. Okay, Will Howard back, throw a deep ball to JJ. Yeah, JJ caught it. Okay, yeah, 1st down for Ohio State. That was the call by Kirk on his 23rd hour of podcasting when he was when his stupor there
what was Paul Keels?
Paul Keels was 3rd down and 8. Right back Howard to JJ Smith down the sideline. Oh, 1st down to the 10-yard line. I mean, it's so bad. I know you guys are like Paul Keels heads.
Paul Keels like bad? That's my boy.
If I want to sleep, or I'll put on a Paul Keels side of like the greatest, like Holy Buckeye and greatest games in Ohio State history, and they're all the same. Krenzel back to throw. Krenzel steps up, throws deep. Michael Jenkins touchdown. Buckeyes. Buckeyes ahead, 13-10. I mean, it's like I have a little bit of excitement. You don't have to be Gus Johnson. You don't have to be like, holy Buckeye. You know, sorry, but I mean, like, have a little bit of excitement. I mean, when that I've said it before, but when that ball went up to JJ and I'm in the stands and I see the separation and I'm kind of doing the math in my head of where the ball was and seeing it's coming right down there, I was so freaking excited. I mean, I went crazy. That's probably the most crazy that I've ever gone in a really long time in a football. That was such a great moment, such an amazing moment to share it with my kids, with the fans around us, and to go back and then I hear the Paul Keels call. So Buckeyes back, 3rd down and 8. Howard goes back, throws JJ Smith, catches 1st down. Buckeyes 10-yard line. I'm like, that's the worst call I've ever seen. So for all you Paul Keels fans out there, I don't like it. Don't like it. I don't like it. Fowler did a better job. Calling the thing in the national championship. Listen to his call. A little bit of excitement. A little bit. Here's Keels calling the strip and sort by Jackson. 4th and 8 for Texas. They're back to throw. Sawyer hits him, gets the ball, running down the sideline. Buckeyes score up 28-14. I mean, like, come on. And you like that? That's what you did it, man. You were like so monotone. I'm
Well,
thinking like
what did I say? What did I say?
you literally like back to throw, throws it deep. JJ catches it, first down for Ohio State. I mean, it was like, man, have a little bit of excitement here, man. Don't be hating. Don't be hating on Will Howard because you didn't have the faith. You didn't believe. You didn't think he was OSU caliber. You thought Avery Johnson. You have your Avery Johnson KSU Wildcats jersey that you're wearing out there. You got little Kirk.
I got his wig on. I got Avery Johnson wig. You're just mad because you didn't get a cool nickname because there was like Maserati Marv. You could have been like Camry. We've got Cam. It's like you could have been sitting there in the States. Let's flash to Camry Ken. He's like, so there's like, yeah, I'm in a Camry. It's awesome. Like, yeah, Maserati Marv with another touchdown.
Yeah.
Camry Ken, 2 glasses of cocoa and half a sweet. Woo!
You're like pass deep pass to JJ. First down Ohio State.
I literally said that Ryan Day had balls as big as Jupiter, and you coined that. And I know that you remember that with your smooth brain. He said, I was like, Ryan Day's balls are as big as Jupiter. You know, I was trying to conserve energy because I know that you'd be slowly sauntering back after you sat and watched the trophy presentation. You watch all the confetti fall on the ground, and you come sauntering back.
Oh,
slowly.
I did.
And I'm sitting there like, Jesus Christ. I was like, I gotta go for
I
another,
got concessions after the game. Concessions are
yeah. I know, it's like, I knew that.
I got a hot dog. Hot dogs are cheap. They're cheaper. They're cheaper after the game.
Yeah, you probably had like a whole fucking coat full, Lasan Lyons coat full of hot dogs for, hey kids, for the ride back to Manhattan Beach. I got 44 hot dogs for $44. This is great. So, you know, and we got we can all share our one refill Coke. So we got one refill Coke that you guys here, Kiki, go refill the Coke, please. Okay, thanks.
No. We're walking out the stadium, and we get out the stadium. I'm going on with my little ducks behind me, and Bowie goes, "Oh, Dad, I dropped my phone back in the stadium."
See, you don't tell me this when I'm waiting on you for the post game. You don't.
That happened.
See, why does Kirk look so tired?
She dropped her phone back. So they went back and they got her phone. They somehow found her phone and then came back. So I was dealing with a dropped phone. I was doing a lot and discounted concessions after the game. Because if you ever want a good deal, go for the discounted concessions after the game.
Oh yeah, they'll give you a whole bag of hot dogs for.
They're gonna throw it away.
$30. They give you a whole trash bag full of hot dogs. You're like, damn, this is the greatest deal ever. It's amazing. I don't care. You know, they'll squirt nacho cheese into the bag, like the Exxon Valdez cheese. I'll be just pumping it in there. It's like, what do I do after games at the Ohio State suite? You know, I go into other suites and eat their food out of the other suites. You know that I'll do that. I'll send my kids. You go upstairs and admonish Paul Keels for being baritone and boring. Paul Keels.
That's what we do.
Third and 10 years back to pass. It looks like a sack. Jack Sawyer sack reaches back. Jack scoops. Jack is running slowly. Jack going down the sideline. Jack Sawyer running. He's at the 35. He's at the 40 now. 45, 50. Jack Sawyer 40, 35, 30. He has a convoy of people in front of him. Sunny Styles block. 25, 10. Jack Sawyer touchdown. Ohio State. CU versus Notre Dame.
That is Keels, bad.
I love Big Daddy. He's the best.
Good job, Jack.
Donald and Karen Rossbeck, thanks for the 5. Thank you for putting up with this nonsense. Appreciate you guys being Ultra members. I heard that Matty G is going to follow Knowles to Penn State. Have you heard anything about that, Nevada OH? I have not heard that unless it's broken the last hour. But I mean, that made sense to me when he left, but they just signed Anthony Poindexter to a huge contract, and he's the safeties coach. So that's where Matty G coaches at. And so something has to give. You can't give a guy, I mean, it's a 7-figure. I mean, Anthony Poindexter is making 7 figures. and he's probably pissed off that he's not the new DC after Knowles came in and made triple his salary. But I don't know where Matty fits now. He might go because that's his daddy that's over there, but I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on what we do with the DC thing. Because if you make Randy Bates or whoever else the DC and make him a co-DC with OG Walt, could happen. That's kind of this is the Russian roulette that Ryan's playing right now, where he has to figure out who he wants to promote and who he wants to have the play caller. And again, someone's feelings are going to get hurt. And it just depends on Ryan on who he cares about, who he wants to retain, or whatever else. So, Nevada, your thoughts? Down on Kieran Rosbeck, and thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. It says, I heard that Matt G and is going to follow Jim Knowles to Penn State. Have you heard anything about that, Nevada?
I mean, that's certainly a possibility, but I don't think so. Just based on what I've been hearing, and the context clues of, as you mentioned, how glowingly Ryan Day spoke about him at the trophy presentation. I mean, that was unusual, and that was clearly designed to I think foreshadow that they're going to make him some sort of a big offer or some sort of a expanded role to kind of stay around because they like him a lot. So I don't think so. But would it be the craziest thing? No. On the scale of crazy in this offseason, that wouldn't even merit a mention. But I don't think that's going to happen. For all the reasons that you mentioned. Richardson's got a big contract now. Now that there's no limits on coaches, you could have 15 guys. They could create a new role for him and do something with it. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Ohio.
What if they made him the lead play-by-play excitement driver? What do you think about that? Like your boy Paul Keels.
Well, that's already your that's already your role. That was your audition tape. It's like, okay, let's flip in this tape here from a Mr. K Barton from third down and 8. He's back to pass. First
K
down.
Barton from Lewis Center, Ohio, 3rd down and 8. Yours back to pass. Yours is back. Sack. Oh wait, hang on. Less exciting. Jack Sawyer running slowly. Jack the iceberg Sawyer running like a big slow iceberg, big white iceberg running slow.
But nobody even caught on because the Texas players all have given up because they've not run after him.
Jack's so pale that he blends in with the all white Texas jerseys. Can't even see him anymore.
Oh my God. Yeah, you guys, your calls, you and Keels, Barton and Keels.
Fire. So we say down here in balmy Lewis Center, Ohio. All right, Alexander Presley, thank you for the 5. I'd love to see Sonny Styles used like Abdul Carter. Is there a reason not to line him up against an OT on obvious passing downs? Hell, there we go. That Chico, or is that Benito? Or is that your pet Chihuahua Keels? That might be Keels barking in the back. I don't know if Studies is flexible as Abdul Carter. I mean, Abdul Carter is probably going to be the first pick in the draft at this point. He's so good. But Sonny maybe could do that. But I've never seen him pass rush in that manner. But Nevada, your thoughts on using Sonny Styles like an Abdul Carter or a Micah Parsons type defensive end?
I think CJ Hicks is probably more likely for that. I think now again, CJ Hicks is not Abdul Carter. We're talking about the role. We're not talking about the players. I'm not trying to compare the two, but I actually think CJ is a good pass rusher, and I think he's bendy, and I think that is that's a way to get him on the field because I think next year your 2 linebackers are going to be Sonny Styles and Averill Reese, and then you've got some young freshmen coming in there. So for CJ, I think it's rushing the passer, and so if you had to have somebody like that do that, that'd be the guy that I would go to.
So you said CJ Hicks is better than Abdul Carter. Is that what you just said?
I said CJ Hicks is better than Paul Keels. He's better than Paul. CJ Hicks calling the thing from the sideline would be better than Paul Keels.
Better than Henry Toto.
better than Avery Johnson.
He's better than Ali Luba. He's the Ali Luba defensive end.
Ali Luba. Ali Luba is not coming. He's not coming to Ohio State. I told you.
There's no chance.
Not coming.
Honestly, I would pay Ali Lu's NIL not to come to Ohio State just so we can see Alou Ba in an Ohio State jersey. It'd be the greatest thing of all time. He'd be fifth string.
Jersey.
He'd be holding the cord for Paul Keels' radio broadcast on the sideline when they got or the sideline guy running around with the microphone like Alou Bobby. He'd be in full pads and a jersey and a hat, his helmet, and he'd just be like he'd have the cord all wrapped up and moving it along, and that would be his gig. I think that'd be swell. All right, Devin, Ohio 7715. Thanks for being an ultra member. Thank you for being a wrench, and thanks for the 20. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you, Kirk in Nevada. People gonna hate and doubt only the dumb ones whose husbands look like they're being human trafficked and are in love with Michigan fans all the time. Size of Success, Scoop had it first. Buckeye boys have some massive interviews coming. 2025 Natty Lock, Nevada OH. Make sure you guys follow Buckeye Boys on YouTube, spelled with a Z like a zebra. Buckeye Boys. These guys are good folks. Devin and Molly did great work. A lot of good recruiting coverage on that, so we appreciate you guys. Nevada, I don't know if there's a question in here other than he says people are going to hate and doubt, which again, the one thing I will tell you about Nevada and I is that when people hate us and doubt us, it's impossible for us to sleep at night. It's really difficult. I just can't function when I know that people don't like us and they hate on us and they don't like our info, even though we have it first and we beat all of our competition like a rented mule. But it's really hard when people don't like us. I don't know how I'm supposed to function, and I apologize in advance if I'm concerned or if I look like I care. But I try to just keep on keeping on. Nevada, any thoughts on that, real quick?
No, just that's fuel for us, man. Whenever they're doubt is fuel for us. So they don't even know. They've created a radioactive monster. That's why we go every single day. We go every single day for two reasons: one for you guys, and one to stick it to them. So that's why we do it, and that's what keeps us here.
And I'll tell you what, it's like when Nevada walks into the Arthur J. Blank Memorial Falcon Stadium. And he's got his Amex charged up with a clear balance, and he walks into that concessions, and it's $3 for the jumbo popcorn. And he's like, man, in Manhattan Beach, I'm used to spending $35 for the same jumbo popcorn. Thank you, Gavin Newsom. And he's like, I could swipe my same credit card and get a giant tub of popcorn, giant infinite Coke, Diet Coke, whatever, 75 roller dogs, and also all the Exxon Valdez like runoff cheese that you can just pump onto the dogs. And you're just like, this is what motivates me. Like when you're exhausted and you're just like, man, I got a podcast one more night, one more day. And you're just like, man, I want to come to the stadium for the national title game. And I know that I can buy as many roller dogs as I possibly want with no impunity and with nothing but greatness in front of me. I have to do it. And then when my daughter leaves,
you laugh. Oh, you laugh. You laugh.
My daughter leaves her $1,600. She leaves her $1,600 iPhone behind, and you're just like, you know what? I saved so much money in concessions, and I feel so great that we can walk all the way back. And Kirk could be sitting there like Castaway with clutching Wilson, just nothing left in my body, waiting for you to get on for the post game show. And you're just like, you know what?
Nothing was going to bother me. Nothing was going to bug me after that national championship. So I'm like, get your phone.
What about Jim Knowles leaving? Does that bother you after winning a national title? Hey? Oh, he hung up. I knew it. I got to him finally. Watch, he's going to ring back in here in 2 seconds. Because he's the king of... All right, hang on. Here he comes. I destroyed his phone. I destroyed his... I apologize. Nevada's jitterbug phone turned off for a second, but I said, even losing Jim Knowles, that didn't bug you. Jim Knowles eating his vegan, cruelty-free, grass-fed grass casserole. Even losing that did not bug you.
No, nothing. Nothing bugs me this entire. I have been completely. I don't care. We won the national championship. I don't care. I don't care about any player, coach, whatever it is. I don't care. We won the Natty. I can die happy now. And so leaving the phone behind. Jim Knowles doing. You making a crappy call on the game. Well, Back to pass, first down. That didn't even bother me. I saw it. I'm just like, doesn't even bother me. Doesn't even bother me.
Did you literally move the
Kills.
thing to see where's this key moment in the game? And let me move my little scroller over
I
and
did
see. Let's see
people,
Kirk's reaction to the
told me,
Jays.
they said Barton was so bad on the call there, and I'm like, no, there's no way. Kirk had to be
There's no
excited. And
way.
I'm like,
Kirk had to be
there's
excited.
no way. And so I went back and watched it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the most unexcited I've ever seen a human being at a big moment. I'm screaming, jumping around, throwing stuff. We're just going crazy at the end. Barton, first down, Ohio State. Just like,
I said Ryan Day's balls are
man.
as big as Jupiter. It's on the air. You guys can go watch it. You guys can
Go back
judge it,
and
make
watch
fun
it.
of
If
me.
you guys come back
I was like,
and then say, oh,
I got
Barton
another.
give that moment the necessary enthusiasm?
No, I didn't. Because I was like, this is the game's over. We're gonna take knees, kick the field goal, whatever. But it's like, I know I would have until the moment he catches that. It's probably gonna be another hour until the game's over, and this could be another hour before they're done launching confetti and holding the trophy up, and then I gotta wait for Mr. Magoo to get back to his room and call me so that we can do the post game show. So it's like, I know.
I got back.
Hour number 6. I was like Jesus Christ. So well, I want to say how great of a time it was. And I love Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles will never leave. He'll never leave us. Ever.
He'll never leave. He'll never
leave.
You promise.
Oh, God. The first vegan casserole to walk past, he's gone. See ya. He had to go take Starla out to Penn State, out to Oklahoma, and bring her back to Penn State. And I was like, oh, my God. Oh, your boy. He took off and he went to the greener pastures. And again, not hating on him. Again, he won a natty, so God bless him. And his, I was like, that guy never wears Ohio State stuff to the press conferences. So I know that his ass is out as soon as he can get out. And he did, but he won us a natty, so I don't care. Again,
Ohio State.
None of it matters. He did. He said, I grew up watching Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky every Sunday morning. I was like, ugh, that ain't good.
Ugh.
I can see why he's vegan tofu now. All right, Nevada, any final thoughts? Let's wrap this thing up.
No, you guys go back and listen to Barton's epic 7,000-minute podcast from the championship game. Go scroll forward to the thing.
37,000 views too, just so you know. Yes.
Go to that moment and just you guys be the judge. Rate it on a scale of 1 to 100 of excitement, and I give it about a 3.7 on the excitement meter. That are on the biggest play, maybe the biggest play in the history of Ohio State football. 3.7, and the only thing is that the only thing that bailing Kirk out is that Keels was at like a 3.4. So you were more excited than him. And you guys love Keels.
I got one view for every day you've been on Earth, man. So we're doing good. Old man River.
Old man
Mr. Bugo. Oh, did you see the hot chocolates only $1.50 inside this dome stadium? This is great.
It's unbelievable.
Did you see that? Hey, I know. You hear that?
Yeah. Kirby's angry.
Kirby's like, that was a damn good call. That was insightful.
Kirby's so angry.
Insightful and adventurous and exciting. And Kirby's like, stop picking on the play-by-play guy that was holding it down. You're spending money and he's over here slaving away.
Oh, man. Yeah, old man River.
All right, Mr. McGill. I'll see you tomorrow. All right, with that being said, great show. Appreciate you guys as always. Hope you guys had a good time with us tonight. If you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys so much. Huge show because you guys make it one. I got to get down to Southern Ohio and go to the river. So holler at me in the comments when it would be good. If you guys don't have a meetup down in Southern Ohio, we need some steaks. So again, I appreciate you guys. If you want to do something huge for us, give us a follow on Apple Podcasts. Please, love of God. That's the best thing you do for us right now. We're growing it quickly, and you guys are a huge help. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you at 7:10 tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be naming a new coordinator in the next day or two, and we'll be able to break all that for you guys, and we'll have us a time. So I hope you guys have a great night. Go Bucks.